Hello, this is Rafael Ferreira, professor at Mohawk College and the advertising program. As you guys know, this is the Ravscast, Days from Mohawk Ad. And before we start this episode, I want to send a few thank you notes because uh, this is the last episode of season one. Season two will start in September. So I will say my thanks here. And first, I will start with Roy Schollenberg, who provided me the technical support in the beginning from Joinville, Brazil. Also, I want to thank Abner Sostari, who provided the amazing soundtrack that you guys are listening to the start on each track. So please, there's a link for his music on the description on our podcast. Also, to my former students who provide their valuable time to talk with me and inspire current and future students of our program. And also to my peer colleagues, faculty at the college, to Mohawk College itself, and to my amazing students that inspire me every day. So for that reason, I want to get to start our last episode. Very special episode for the last one of season one. Thank you, everybody. Direct from Hamilton, Ontario, Canada, this is Ravscast, Tales from Mohawk Ad. This is the episode 17th and is the last one for the season. I had the pleasure this time to invite my colleague and good friend Jef Petrossi, who is a full-time professor at the college, amazing copywriter, amazing creative person, and he's the one who polish and create most of the work from portfolios at the college from the creative students. So also Jeff is an expert in ultimate frisbee, Expresso coffee, and fantasy hockey. So I forgot to mention that in our interview, but I will leave this quote here. Jeff and I will have a discussion about what makes a good creative student and hence on how to get into a good position to finally land a job on the ad industry, and also about how to develop your craft. So without any more delays, season finale of Ravscast with Jef Petrossi. Welcome to Ravscast episode 17. And this is the end of season one. And I'm extremely happy today to have here my buddy and my peer that I work at the college, the creative master at the college, Jef Petrossi. Hello, Jeff. How are you?
Hey, very good. I'm part of I didn't know I was the season finale. That's
It
awesome.
is. It is a season finale. Yes.
Hopefully it'll be a cliffhanger ending. Yeah.
Oh yeah, it will not be a Sopranos ending for sure. Oh, how are you doing, Jeff?
I'm good. I'm good.
Good.
How are you?
Good. So Jeff is a Mohawk alumni and a Humber alumni, and I want you to start, Jeff, saying about how was the college that those days that you attended the college?
Oh, how was Mohawk different? Oh,
Yes.
wow. It was really, really different back then. We had a space in another wing of the college altogether, and there was this office where about four different advertising instructors all kind of huddled together, like they were all kind of back to back, and desks were touching, and all of their desks were messy with stuff everywhere. But we didn't have a space in the college like we have now, where we have the agency, like a big space for the students to go work in. Everybody kind of hovered everywhere. The college itself was so different. Like the amount of investment they've put into the college in the last few years with the rec center and beautiful wings everywhere and living walls and stuff like that. It's just the experience of being a Mohawk now versus back then, where it wasn't so nice. A friend of mine said that he thought of some colleges as being high schools with cigarettes, and that's what Mohawk was like when I went there. It was kind of dingy.
Oh, I see.
Yeah.
So once you finished, Jeff, you went directly to work, or you went to do your postgrad in copywriting right away? How that work?
No, I finished, and I ended up going. I was showing my portfolio around a little bit, and I went to go see a guy. His name was Brad Myers, and he said to me, he's like, "Oh, you have good ideas, but I think you need to work on your writing." And he said, "I think you'd really benefit by taking this postgraduate course, all about copywriting." And he actually gave me a book, which was, I found out afterwards, it was $100. It was called the Copy Book, and I read it start to finish. And I was so kind of amazed by this guy's generosity and the advice that he gave me. And so I was like, I'm going to do it. I'm just going to do what he said. So I ended up doing that. I went and did the 1-year postgrad course at Humber, which at the time was like where just about every copywriter in the industry came from. So it was like the doors were open after you finish there.
Cool. Yeah, I heard amazing things about the Humber program on copywriting postgrad. After that, Jeff, how was your direction in the industry before you came to the college? Because you're being full time for the college for how long now? 16 years or something like that?
Not that long, but long enough that I don't know.
Okay.
But yeah, I mean, Mike, like that, everything started rough at the beginning because I actually had my portfolio was, I had a few agencies that were interested in hiring me, and then 9/11 happened, and I like all of the, like there was one place in Vancouver that it was kind of my dream agency. I wanted to work there so desperately, and the creative director there had said to me, don't take any other offers. We're gonna make this happen. And then he called me, left me a message and just said, based on what happened, we can't hire anybody right now. And so that's what happened. Like every agency after 9/11 was like, we can't hire anyone. There's so much uncertainty.
Yeah. Being there, yeah.
Well, it's nuts though, Raf, because you think about that, like the uncertainty that happened after 9/11, and then you think about what's going on right now. And in a way, like what's happening right now, you would think would have an even bigger economical effect, right, than 9/11 did. But
yes,
but back then, that was like everybody just kind of tightened up and said we can't do anything. So I got a job as a security guard, working at Scotia Plaza in Toronto, and it felt like the very lowest point of my life, wearing this stupid security uniform, and I remember one day.
It's gonna work. It's gonna work, Jeff. It's
yeah, I had rent to pay and stuff like that, and every agency was closed. But Raph, I'll tell you, one of the lowest points, I had already done an internship at G. Jeffrey and Partners, which was like a really good agency, and my job, I had to stand at the front of the building, and like when cars came in, I would just stop them, and basically it was to have security presence. And I remember one day I was standing there, I'd read my book in between cars coming in. I'd just like slip away and hide and read my book. And I put my book down, and this car pulled in. It was a nice car. And I walked over to say, like, "Good morning, where are you headed today?" And I look in the window, and it was the design director for G. Jeffrey and Partners.
Oh my God.
Here I am wearing my my uniform. I was just so embarrassed. But I mean, that was just what happened at that time. Like everybody was kind of just in a rush.
Yes, they put a hiring freeze of at least 6 months.
Yeah.
At that part, yeah, it was brutal.
Yeah,
it was brutal time. But and after that, Jeff, so how was your first time stepping into an agency? What was the sensation of, oh my God, I have my desk, I have a art director to work with? And
yeah, it was. I was so scared. I was actually. I look at some of our students now, and I think about how they go out, and a lot of them are very confident and they believe in themselves, and I admire that because I remember my first day thinking that I completely did not belong there. I felt like they were going to discover that I was a fraud. And my partner and I, we sat at this like table that was basically in the middle of the hallway, so people were constantly walking by, which I hated. It was bad feng shui. Like they were like always walking behind us, so you could never focus
I
on
see.
anything. Um, I was really really overwhelmed when I first started, and I remember that my very first day we got there, and the account person came up and they're like, okay, so you're gonna work on this brief. It was for this like Apple beverage, and we had to write, I think it was radio, and he's like, it's due at the end of the day. And I remember like I was thinking my first day, I thought they were gonna like walk us around and show us where everything was, and
Mm-hmm.
maybe just like, oh, here, start doing some research or something like that. But no, it was the meeting is at 4 o'clock today. Finish this campaign, and I think I was so jarred by the fact that they want to work right away that I like locked up. Um, my partner and I didn't even know each other, and we just kind of just started grinding out ideas, and we did it. Like we got the work done. But I went home that night and I was like, oh my god, that was so much harder than I thought it would be. And I think it took me a while after that to kind of settle in to the
And you
pressure.
understand the culture and
Yeah,
how to get in and the working process. I think
yeah.
nowadays people are much more organized with the Slacks and the project management and that part the computer structure of the process. I think it's much more black and white now.
Oh yeah,
Don't
for
you think?
sure, for sure. And I mean, another contributing factor was that I'm an introverted person, so there's just that getting used to being around the people, remembering people's names, getting to know my partner. My partner and I didn't really get along. When we interned, we kind of butted heads a lot, and so that was a thing too. Um, so yeah, I mean, it was just kind of like a crash course, which. Which was good because after that everything kind of you kind of set the stage, you knew what it was going to be like, you know what I mean.
How can you tell me a few of the agencies and one or two projects that you remember the most, Jeff?
Okay. Yeah, so I worked at G Jeffrey and Partners as an intern, and then I worked at Gray in Toronto and Vancouver, and I worked at an agency called Low RMP, which has like since changed names like 4 different times.
Mm-hmm.
And I worked at FCB and then Draft FCB, and then now it's called FCB again. So a bunch of different spots. Um, we worked on one project for the Workplace Safety Insurance Bureau, which I thought was such a fascinating project because they the team had this super cool insight that there are no accidents, like no workplace injury is actually an accident. It's a result of some form of negligence, whether it's the worker or the employer. Something went wrong, and I remember thinking how cool of an insight it was that people don't get hurt by accident, and if we just take away all of the accidents, we can maybe sort of like save people. But one thing that was really interesting about it was that the client was just sort of bloodthirsty. They wanted to like make the work as gory and as bloody as possible. Which would like Raf, clients are like the opposite usually, right? It's like let's not do anything that's going to offend anybody. Let's not do anything
Yes.
that's going to be too visible. Um, and they wanted to do the opposite. They wanted to make the stuff like
You want to do cigarette packaging style stuff.
yeah, exactly. Right. So I remember we were on the shoot, and um, we like my partner and I we had this one ad where it was like a metal security sign that had like cut somebody's arm off. So this the
Oh,
and so the sign had come down and the arm was dismembered, and we thought, wow, like that's really really
over the top.
over the top.
Or
And so the client wasn't there on the shoot, and we sent them the ad, and he wrote back and he's like, what, like, where's all the blood? Where's all the gore? And we're like, it's all there. The blood and gore is all there. It was just, he couldn't get enough. And so, one of our creative directors gave us advice, which I actually think is really, really great advice for students when they're executing work, which was go too far. Do it in iterations, and do it like so that you think it's like gory enough, and then go make it too gory, and then go one step further and make it over the top gory. And by doing that, when you're executing work, what you basically are doing are capturing, like, because sometimes after the fact you look at it on screen or print it out or whatever, and it's like, oh yeah, we could have actually gone further with it, because you look at what you're looking at in the shoot, and it may be really bad then, but what the camera catches could be even worse, right? So anyway, those ads, they were so gory, the final work, that they had to print them in black and white. The media wouldn't run them. They were too I don't know, violent. So they said, we can only print them if we print them in black and white, or if we put big censored stickers over top of them, which I think we loved. Like, we loved the fact that, like, the work was just so so far that they couldn't even just print it the way that it should be.
But most importantly, did the campaign work?
Oh yeah, it was a really effective campaign. It won a bunch of awards. It was, yeah. And
that's great to hear.
Yeah, it is kind of cool to do stuff like that, where you are maybe making a difference for somebody's, like, safety, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I actually, there's things that I learned in that campaign that I still talk about with my kids now. We worked on stuff where it was telling young people that they can say no to unsafe work. And now that my daughter, she's 14, so it's like we're getting close to her going out and getting work, and I'm always thinking about that campaign. I think I want you to work at a place where it's safe, and I want you to know that you can say no to stuff like that. So it is funny, the stuff that you work on, it can stay with you after the fact. There's some of the messaging is important and real, and you can kind of like keep it.
I agree. I completely agree with you. Do you think that good clients make good projects? It's important to have a good client to have a good outcome.
I don't know. I mean, I've seen where agencies have, like, forced really bad clients to do really good work, and the bad client, they got something that they didn't deserve. It was better than what they deserved.
I see.
The work works really well, and then they start thinking, yeah, maybe. I have seen times where bad clients get good work, but I think it definitely helps if you have a good client. Then it can open the doors. I think for our students going out, they ideally can go out and create a bit of a connection with the client and try to get to know them a little bit and have a bit of a relationship, and make it feel more collaborative, where it's not so much us versus them. I think that's like the mark of a good client, is somebody who's really willing to listen. Because I do understand what it's like to be a client, and I understand why clients wouldn't want to do super bloody, gory work, because they have a mortgage to pay, and they have kids they have to take care of and stuff like that. And so you do something risky and you lose your job. I understand that fear. But it is super cool, I think, when there's a client that's willing to listen and go outside of their comfort zone to do what's right.
Mm-hmm. Can you give me another campaign that you're proud of, Jeff, that you really enjoy working with?
That I did?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Geez. We did some work for TD Canada Trust, where it was these two grumpy old guys that would sit outside of the bank, and they would just bitch and moan about, like, all how things have changed and people aren't so good anymore. And then the idea was like,
this I remember this campaign.
Yeah,
that's a super cool campaign.
The idea was that TD had changed, and that it changed for the better. And a great way to sort of show that was to to take these old men who I think I may be becoming, but these old men who like see this change and then they can't accept it as being good. Do you know what I mean? It's like the bank's open now on Saturday. What kind of crap is that, right? Like, and it's like, well, what's wrong with that, right? What's wrong with the bank being open more? So it was kind of funny to have do a campaign where these two old guys complained about everything that the bank did, but it was always sort of like for a benefit, and those were really fun. My partner and I, when we present work, we do the voices, and the clients love sort of the performance of it and stuff like that. So those were fun to work on. We brought in this the two old guys. The one guy was from LA, and as the campaign went on, he was like getting older, and like it was getting harder and harder to direct him because he was getting older. And anyway, that it like working with old guys had its challenges, but that was a really fun one.
I have two questions based on Jeff. How important it is to after working time in the industry, you to also do some freelance to keep it going and have the blood going through your veins, the ad blood going through your veins, and when
I think it's the fear. It's not. It's the fear is what I need is a little bit of fear every now and again. Because I feel like every time I look at a brief, I get a little bit of fear. But I think it's important. I think it is for sure. Like, every now and again, to dig into stuff where you keep the pencil sharp. But what I think the most important thing is, Raph, is like just doing some creative stuff, like just like having a creative outlet. Because what you and I do is mostly look at work and we kind of correct and edit, but I think it is important sometimes to have the work sort of like in its own sort of raw form come out of your brain. And it's, I think about this a lot with students who are going business. So at the end of if for anybody listening who doesn't know the Mohawk deal, the end of first year, you have to choose creative or business, sort of like what you're going to specialize in. And there are some students, it's like a home run that they're going to go one way, a home run they're going to go another way. But there are students that kind of are on the fence. And the students that are on the fence can either be really good, and that's why they're on the fence, because they're both good at doing both, or maybe not so good because they're, not really strong at either of them yet. But the ones who are strong at doing both, sometimes you have a student who I think is like really great at creative, but they're also really good at doing business. And I think about what it's like to have this sort of like these like creative, this creative energy inside your brain, and not having times where you can like kind of push it out. You know what I mean? Like not having little, like, yeah. And there've been students in the past where I've said to them, I think you'll be really happy if you go business. Like it seems like you're good at doing it, but I think that if you do it, you have to find times, like you have to find a way to have some creative output somewhere, because you're a creative person. And I don't believe that you can have that creative energy inside your brain and not push it out somehow, some way. You know what I mean? So for me, I like to do stuff like that, like along, here or there. It's like, what would just be sort of like a fun creative thing to sort of take on, because I think it like you can't just be looking at other people's ideas all the time and saying, do number 15, that one's really good. It has to be coming to your own too.
Do you think that some of those students fear, like, oh my God, will I tell my family that I do creative stuff, or they confuse with the business is more established, saying that they can look for a job or something like that, and it will be more stable if I go business or something?
Yeah, I think that. Do you think that?
Well, maybe it's not. Once again, it's much more gray zone on the creative side than it is on the business side.
Yeah.
I think for them, until they understand how an agency works and what kind of job they could get, and that's the thing. I think it's important right on to them to know the career path and how it works.
Yeah, I agree. Well, the other thing too, I don't know if you do this or not, but near sort of the end of the semester, winter semester, I like to, for some students, and I mean, there's even some students for first year that I'd still like to do this for right now, but I like to send them a note and just say, hey, just in case, I want you to know that I think you do well on the creative side. And I'm not telling you that because I'm trying to like convince you to go creative, but I just want you to know, in case you ever wondered, that I think you could do it because I having done it for like talked to students for a little while, there have been times where students second year or third year or graduating or whatever, I'll talk to them, business students, and I'll say, why didn't you go creative?
Hmm.
And then they say, oh, I didn't think I was good enough. And I'll think, but you were so much better than half of the class who ended up going creative. Like it was this weird confidence issue that held you back. And I just want, I guess I want some of the students to know that you're good enough if you want to do it. You're good enough to go creative. So sometimes I do that, and honestly, it's like it's not to try and sell them to go creative, but also I just never want them to, um, you know, live their whole life and think, oh, I wonder if I could have done the other path, because some of them are quite strong.
Jeff, it comes time to you to become a full-time teacher at the college. And how was that whole transition? And like, oh my God, I think I can do this. You're telling me that you're introvert, and you're
Yeah,
thinking, oh my God, I have to teach a bunch of kids, and
yeah.
how that works in your mind.
Well,
Don't
it's
get me
funny.
wrong. Yeah, don't get me wrong. I still get the chills when I go to teach a new class. A first year students that I don't know. I still get an excitement
Yeah, but you know
of
what,
doing
Rap?
that.
I remember in my first year teaching that, like, everybody said to me, "Oh, you're nervous now, but it goes away." But I'm so neurotic. I actually get nervous before every class I teach. I always just assume that I'm going to do something really dumb. Um, sorry, I'm going to mute my. I'm getting email. Um, yeah. So that kind of stuff uh, was an adjustment for sure. And people kind of laugh when I say that I don't actually like teaching. Like, I don't like teaching lectures. But I really do love the times where you're just sitting there and working stuff out with students, where you're looking at their work and you're going through the work with them and trying to make it better. Like the last couple of weeks, you and I have spent a lot of time um, talking to students
Mm-hmm.
about award show stuff or building their portfolios and stuff like that. And I love doing stuff like that. Um, it's the act of being in front of 30 people, and do you know how many times I've tripped while I'm teaching a class, Raph? Like, do you know
Oh,
how many times I've put my foot in my mouth with really, really dumb, embarrassing things? Um, so the teaching part, uh, I, I don't know if I'll ever completely love that part, but it's working through things, working on projects together. That's the kind of stuff I really, really love. Wait, do you feel that way? Do you like teaching lectures?
yeah. I think it's great because I know the importance to that to the students. I think in my mind, I think it's kind of you need to go through a lot of stuff and try to mentor them a lot of stuff, but definitely the mentoring part, the sitting besides the student and go through things and the conversations that happen outside of the classroom are the best part. And I think we both agree on that part, Jeff, because I
Yeah,
think it's that's the part when we make the difference for the students. I think the other part is necessary, and I think it's very important. and I don't have any problem doing it. But I really enjoy much more the the one-on-one and or the group of students and the reviews and a critique session. That kind of part is super cool. It's
Yeah.
every year I look forward for that part.
Yeah, I
I
love.
will back to that. I will get back to that point, Jeff, because I think based on what you just said and I said, we're both said, it's the reason we try to get our agency at a Mohawk in a different way. And 10 years ago, I think was about 10 years ago, and
Mhm.
I wanted you to talk a little bit about that process because the agency is to we get real clients since the college exists, but it was a small projects in a classroom, that kind of stuff, and we want to take to the next level. And I remember the whole research project that we did on traveling and kind of stuff that in the end it worked.
Yeah.
So can you tell
Yeah.
me about that whole thing, Jeff?
Yeah. Well, that was funny because it didn't feel like it was actually going to work, right? It felt like we were just um, maybe wasting our time, but we tried doing it anyway. And I think
Yes.
that's sometimes like the things to be the most proud of in life is the time where it didn't feel like the thing that you were doing was going to actually turn into something. But you went through the effort anyway. But yeah, that was cool. I remember you gathered a million photos of different agency situations, rooms and cool sort of like parts of their environment. And we researched on why agency space would be more effective for the students learning. And You're right. We went to places too, right? Like I do. We went to was it New York? Like that we went to the Miami Ad School
You went to New
and
York and San Francisco,
yeah, right. Oh yeah, right, right,
and
right.
you went
Yeah,
and you.
I was thinking about San Francisco. I was watching an Anthony Bourdain show, and I was regretting that you and I didn't go. We talked about getting a kayak and going out by the baseball field there, but we didn't do it.
Yes.
Anyway, but yeah, that was really great. And so we did all of that. And We went down to Mr. Used and tried to find our own ideas. We had that great idea of having buying the ice cream truck and turning it into a little office space inside the agency. You had that amazing idea of doing buying not pinball but like arcade machine
Yes.
and uh, cutting out the bones of it and putting a Mac in and having it so that art directors could build layouts and stuff like that on like a Pac-Man machine. I love that. We had we had the slide. Do you remember doing the slide with the second floor up near where the windows were? And then the college like uniformly laughed at us when we proposed that idea. I also had an idea which I thought was super cool, where we had a back room where we like put the music down low and or where you had music that you could put on sort of like kind of low, like like the steady beats type of music, and the lights would be down low, and it would be kind of like this like darker studio to go and build stuff in. And I remember that idea died because everybody started thinking about what the students were going to do in that space. but yeah, we had so many cool ideas, and
you went to the brand center too. I remember you did.
Right. Yeah. Right. Yeah, that was awesome as well. So we kind of put it all together, and I'd look at the agency, and I'm proud of the fact that we got it made. I think that if I could go back, I would have fought harder for different things. Like some of the crazy. Remember we talked about having an ant farm in the wall.
Yes.
That you could like watch the ants, like that. There was a bunch of things like that I really wish that we'd been able to pull off, like the really kind of crazy creative stuff. And I always wish that we had like found a way to get hardwood floor, because I love that sound. Whether it's like at a coffee shop or an agency, the sound of like foots walking across a hardwood floor, I love that sound, and I miss that we weren't able to get that put in.
It's kind of an instant character in a sound.
Yeah. Do you have any? I can't remember if there are any other things that we tried to fight for that space. I mean, I think it's a really cool space. Like it looks nice, and it's
I think
one
I
of the
think
better.
I think it's kind of your gore ads, Jeff. We push too much,
Oh,
and then
yes,
we
right.
yeah.
You're right. You're right.
Then we get something that in the end it works. It could be that super cool thing with the old ice cream truck and Fact
Yeah.
Man and the ant
Oh,
farm. Yeah.
do you remember too? You had this idea of doing physical type. Remember, you wanted to have like A's and T's and whatever X's or whatever, and then have the type going through the wall. Do you remember
I
that?
remember that. Yeah, the
So
physical.
so and then they said no, we can't do that because somebody would trip over it and get hurt, which to me was always so crazy. Like who would do that?
Mhm.
Who would trip over this giant
Letter
letter
A.
G making its way through the wall? But anyway, yeah, there were lots of really interesting things, and I think that it's an interesting space. There's stuff I would love to change about it. I don't like the type on the outside walls. You don't like it either, I don't think. The type that goes
Oh
around the
yes,
corner,
yes.
and I don't like the carpet and stuff like that. But it is still a really really cool environment
Do you?
for the
I think of
space.
the main thing, Jeff. Besides having a proper space that replicates somehow the future of the students, I think it also we need a space that the students feel like home. And I think it's very important that the students have this kind of a relationship with the college, that they had a space that they say this is our space.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. That's the other thing, by the way, was remember we tried to do like our own dedicated space outside of the college.
Oh my
Do you
god!
remember
Oh my
that
god!
too?
That was
We
tons
we
of
went,
different times going to different places.
yeah, the cotton factory we tried to do at one point, and we also put together a plan to in the psychiatric ward across the road, which the college did eventually buy.
Hmm.
Yeah, but we did. We kind of like looked into it all, right?
Yeah, the cotton factory, downtown Hamilton, James
Yeah,
North, all those places.
yeah. Just imagine how great the coffee would have been if we had actually got the James North one. We could have gone to like all those great coffee shops to work and stuff like that. But yeah, we've always pushed for different stuff, to try and move things forward. And I think it is kind of been nice that like, for the 10 things that you asked for, if two or three of those things, worked out, then you're two or three things further ahead, right? So
Hmm.
it's been fun doing that stuff too, like trying to find ways to improve
We
the
also
the
have a great help running an agency, Joe Duda, for a number
yeah,
of years, and
yes,
now he's not only. So I think that the whole agency, the client, and the space to meet clients, and the breakdown rooms, the meeting rooms, and the studio, that really made an impact on the students. Everything we research about the learning and about the space and about the outcome of that, it really made a difference because we started to get uh, applications and more applications from clients. And at one
yeah,
time, we'll
okay.
even be able to do stuff for Calix, isn't it? Can you
Yeah,
tell the
yeah.
experience to us?
Well, that was neat because they wanted to do like an experiment um, where like they were basically they were working with an agency, and because of the agency model and the pay structure and everything like that, if something happened and Calix wanted to do a quick social post about it, something that was really agile, they weren't really able to pull that off, and they wanted that from the agency. They wanted faster thinking. They wanted stuff that they could turn around really quickly, and so a friend of mine that I used to work with, he's a brand manager there, and he reached out and said, "Oh, could we try this experiment where the students you know, um, do work that kind of responds to what's happening in the world?" And so I said, "Sure, that'd be really fun to do." And we did it for a whole bunch of different brands. We did it for a number of years.
Hmm.
And I think for the students it was cool. The one problem was that they couldn't show the work until after it was used. So some of the stuff we did to happen really quickly, but some of the stuff we would do for, a month or two away. And so sometimes the students had work that they couldn't actually show when they were showing their portfolio, which was a bit of a drawback. But, just to be able to have work for a big brand like Kellogg's that actually got used and had millions of eyeballs and stuff like that was really, really neat for them.
Yeah, I'm really proud of the work we do at the agency. I think it's the whole process experience with the clients, something that we had some other colleagues coming to us to know about the experiment at the time, and they got
Yeah.
their own agencies. And I'm happy that advertising programs around the province are getting the best education, because I think Ontario is a great place to get your advertising credentials, I think, now. And what do you think, Jeff?
Oh no, absolutely. And it's also like it's cool because we've been able to do a lot of cool, like helpful things for places in the community that really needed the help and couldn't afford to get communications from a real agency. So this a couple months ago, I was thinking about saying, oh, maybe we could do some work to help try and convince people to get vaccinated. That was one of
Mm-hmm.
the things the government was looking for people to help them do. And I thought, oh, that maybe that would be a cool project for the agency. Like looking at things like that, where you can actually do stuff where it actually makes a difference. I didn't actually propose it because I was worried that the process may not work with the academic timelines, but I think that that's one thing that we've been able to do is a lot of stuff that helps a lot of people. And the students, I find, get charged by that. The initial briefing where they sit down and then this charity or somebody with like a really cool mission walks them through what they're looking to do, and the students see the power that they can have by doing really cool work. I think that that's a really really nice moment in the 3 years at the program.
Yeah, we help tons of different not-for-profits, and I'm super proud of those campaigns too. It's so helpful to them. Big brothers and big sisters, run a McDonald's house,
Yeah, we did the
others,
SPCA. Yeah,
SPCA. Yeah,
yeah, yeah.
I I wanted to ask you, Jeff, one thing. What is the biggest mistakes? Let's put it in plural here, that a student can do when they enter the advertising program, or they're going creative? Because I thought going
Oh,
creative.
good.
Yes.
I was hoping we were going to do pet peeves,
Yes.
Raf. This is good.
Yeah.
Um, no. Well, so the biggest mistake you're saying when they start on the creative side.
Yes. When they go to the creative side and I'm gonna do creative and I'm gonna go, and you see, oh my God, they have so much potential in the first year and now they fall apart. What do you think?
Yeah. I want to know your answer to this too, by the way. So, but
Sure.
I think that the number one biggest thing that a lot of students, not every student, but a lot of students need to work through is their relationship with that exists between their confidence and their thinking. So I think a lot of students, they'll work with a partner and it's so important to them that their idea is the one that gets used. And so they don't listen to their partner, or the partner has a great idea and they think, oh, I have to outdo that idea. I can't just run with it. Like I was listening to Hussein when he was talking to you about
Hmm.
how like if his partner had a great idea, then it was a great idea. Project is done and we did a good job. But I think that a lot of students, they spend a lot of time forming their own sort of self-image of how good they are and how strong their ideas are, and it interferes with the process, I think.
They
Where
don't.
I,
They don't.
I'm
They don't let go of the
yeah,
because
and yeah, it's like they try and force an idea, or it's like the third idea, and they start thinking about how they're going to defend this idea and make it be a thing. And I think that the best way to succeed is to try to not fall in love with any of your ideas, but instead just like, okay, what's another one? What's another one? What's another one? And once you and your partner have come up with a volume of ideas, and I don't really know what that number is, but you have enough to feel like you've done an exhaustive search, that you can look at it and just say, okay, forget who came up with it, because we were both part of the process. Even if you said it, I said the idea 2 ideas before that kind of led to your idea. So now everything is all like ours. So what is the best work here? And completely like losing the who did what, or whatever that is, and just what's the best work. And I think that's where it takes students a while to get to that point where they stop. Because I think, Raf, a big thing is when, especially in the beginning of second year, is this feeling of, am I really good? Am I one of the best? And am I whatever? And they spend a lot of time kind of like evaluating themselves in this bigger competition. And the best way I think to be really effective is to not think a lot about that, but to just think, I want to try and outwork everybody, and I want to just spend the most time coming up with like doing the work and not thinking about the other stuff. And I think that's the best way to do really good stuff.
I will tell something about that, but I was just in a quick break from that. I was remembering that we always get it right based on the future of the students in the next 2 years, based on the seat they got into the Mac lab.
Yeah, right. Yeah, for sure.
It's so funny, right? Like how this kind of relationship with the space is it works like a charm. But
Well,
go ahead, Jeff.
no, because you're talking about a bit of a cheat code thing here, Raf, which I think
Yes.
is an important thing for the students to think about, is that every year there about halfway through the program, there's a group that forms typically. And it's the group of students that are the most sort of dedicated and the most passionate, and um and they hold each other to like a higher standard. And that you can go out and get a job and be successful and not be part of that group. Like, there's a couple students every year that don't fit into that sort of keener zone that do okay. But the ones who are in that keener group, they always do well. They always get jobs. They always do well. And I've seen it so many times where that group of students, maybe there's 8 or 10 of them in it, and 1 or 2 of them really don't have the same talent level that the rest of them do. But it always blows my mind, because when you have groups like that, they all get jobs, even the ones who aren't as talented. And there are times, I'm not going to name people, but there are people who have gone out into the industry and done awesome things, who, when they were in second or even third year, they weren't performing at a really high level. So I think that kind of passion, like, and it's all comes back to like what you're talking about, where they sit in the Mac lab. It makes a bigger difference than just pure talent to me.
Yes, I was surprised by a lot of people too, Jeff. That I think once they get into the industry, and I think the keeners pushing them to a good point, the mindset. I think they're able to do amazing in the industry too, and sometimes get it even better than some of them. So
Absolutely.
So what I want to say here is Jeff. I think one thing that gets a lot, and I know that is something that sometimes people cannot control. Sometimes I think one of the biggest mistakes is sometimes people get their part times or get a full time job when they get to the college together, and they think they can do it. And I think it gets to one point that you if you don't have the planning and the strategy and how you're going to go through the 3 years of college, if it depends on your work, it's going to be hard, because at one point it will be a point that, do I just want to finish this, or I really want a job after this? Because there are times that people compromise and put everything, but I need this job that I'm doing outside of the college to pay the bills, and that's a really question on do we need to plan in advance for those kind of things, or do they need to ask for help, or what is the best outcome when people get into that situation, Jeff?
Uh, I don't know, because I think when you're in that situation, things can be. It's a hard situation for sure. But
Hmm.
I think for me, it's always about what is the reality, and I think that there are times that students kind of lose track of the reality, and they think, well, if I work a lot, maybe I work 25 or 30 hours a week, and then I do the program on top of everything else. I'm working super hard, and I'm like expending all of this energy, and I can be proud of myself for that. And I think that there's truth to that. Like, you're working super hard, which is, noble,
Hmm.
but if you're not able to really invest yourself in the program, and the reality of it is that your work isn't very good, like, this is one of the things that I always struggle with students is they'll say to me, well, I worked really, really hard on this. And I'll say to them, but it isn't good. And
Hmm.
it doesn't, at the end of the day, it doesn't really matter how hard you worked if it isn't good, right? And um, and I believe that if you work really hard at something, it does get good. And we've seen that with students, time and time again. But for the scenario you're talking about, it is very easy for a student to just completely exhaust themselves, to work around the clock, and to have not a lot to show for it. And so I guess for a student like that, I would suggest that they look at the reality of it and ask themselves, like, is this really, like, you're working hard, but the result isn't there? So
Hmm.
um, maybe it is. Yeah, maybe it's another plan. Maybe it's work full time for a year and then save your money and come and do school. Or maybe it's having more of a budget so that you don't have to work as many hours. And the other one is, Raf, and it drives me nuts, is the students will say, it's not the student that drives me nuts. It's they'll say to me, oh, I'm working so much, and I'll say, could you work less? And they'll say, yeah, but my boss won't let me.
Mm.
Um, and I don't. Did you hear that a lot? I hear
Yes, I
that a
hear that a
lot,
lot. I hear that a lot,
and,
Jeff.
and I always think, like, well, the students, because when I was young, I wouldn't have thought this way either. But if you are so important to your boss that they can't get enough of you at work, then if you tell them, I can only work this much, it's not like they're going to fire you, right? They have to find that you're valuable to them already. And I think that a lot of students don't realize that. Like, I think a lot of students, what I like, the other one is like, I hear a lot about, like, uh, bad landlords from students. And I think a lot of times they don't really know what their rights are, whether it's like the work that they're, like, the people they work for, or the places that they're living.
Hmm.
Um, they don't know the times when they, like, have a leg to stand on. But, like, for the work one, it's like, if your boss can't get enough of you that they want you to work 45 hours a week, and you say, look, I can only work 15 hours a week, which, by the way, to me is like, I think that should be the maximum that a student can work per week and still be effective with their studies. 15 hours is like
I
a good
agree.
number. Um, but uh, so yeah, I think if you went to your boss and said, I have to cap it at 15, and your boss said, no, I need you for more, then if you said, I can only do 15, that the boss would have to find a way to accommodate you, because they don't want to lose you for all those hours, right?
Yeah, it's difficult because a lot of the students is the time they're leaving home and try to be independent, and at the same
Yeah,
time, how you be independent and having a part-time work salary. I know it's hard sometimes. I know for some students have family support is good too, but for some
yeah,
students it's important to them to have their own independence and run through their own legs. And
yeah.
and I don't have a correct answer for that, Jeff. But I think they should. I think every student should revise in their mind if the work they're presenting is the one they are looking for the outcome, and they putting the enough hours into this to get the
Yeah, I
result.
agree. The other thing is that I think that our students go through so much, and I think about our students a lot. Like, I think about a lot of the problems that they have to work through. and I worry about them.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, we've seen it where students lose their parents when they're in the program, where students have illnesses that they have to deal with, where students have like crippling anxiety. We see all of that stuff, um, and it's hard to see them dealing with all of that stuff, especially since from our perspective, we're not doing them a favor by just saying, okay, you just I'll just pass you right now. They're at the end of the day, they're here to learn and build a portfolio that'll get them a job and stuff like that. So we have to walk that balance of like, being empathetic to what they're going through and also trying to find a way to keep them moving forward and keep them learning things and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I mean, it's hard, especially like the anxiety part. I mean, that one is like super recurring theme with so many students on the creative side, where they're dealing with a lot of stress and anxiety, and for some of them it's debilitating. And I see students who kind of shut down because of that. And I have my own stress and anxiety issues. I know like some of the stuff they're feeling. I've gone and talked to like counselors and therapists and stuff like that. I've had that sort of like arresting feeling, and I don't know if they know. Like, I try and tell students when they're going through that I've been through that myself. But I know that the temptation when things like that get hard is to just sort of like stop, right? And but I also really, really believe that that's not the answer. To just not do an assignment because you felt anxiety towards it, or and I think that's a big challenge too that we see.
It gets us, Jeff, now to the final minutes of the podcast. Final minutes, I mean 5 or 10 minutes, not the final
Okay.
minutes. Yes. Uh,
Sure.
Once I want to ask you, what is the main portfolio mistakes that students do usually on their work? That you say, "Oh my God, if I could have something that you put in their brains that don't do that that you see every
Yeah.
year."
The one of the biggest recent trends is to put all of their work together in one. Um, I think actually I was talking to a student. I think it's actually from the way that we do NAC boards, where you put all of the work together in this one small space, because that's how you have to build your entry. And I think that it kind of gets programmed in their head to do it like that on their website. But you go to a student's you go to their website, you click on the brand, and then there's 16 different executions that fill your screen all at once. And I have the shortest attention span of anybody you've ever met. So when I see this, I don't even know where to look. So that's a really common one. Is just not let the work breathe. I say to them that pixels are free, right? You can
Mm-hmm.
you can have uh, one idea and then scroll a little bit and have another idea and sort of present it slowly, and have it feel like a thoughtful presentation of your work. um, so that one's a really big one for me. The other big issue that I see a lot is that students will have an idea and they know the idea so well that they just assume everybody else knows it.
Mm-hmm.
And I
I
think it
agree.
comes
I
back.
completely agree with you on that one. Yes.
Yeah. Oh, I get so angry when I'm watching a case study video or reading a concept board, and it's like, what's the idea? I'm in the sixth paragraph now, and I still don't know what the idea is. I need to know, what is it? What is it? So that to me is like a thing too. It's like the word I use a lot now is immediate. I want the idea to be immediate. Where you see a concept board, like, instead of trying to be mysterious, just be direct. What's the idea from your headline and your visual? Because I think that students maybe overestimate how much time a creative director will spend looking at their work.
Mm-hmm.
They're not going to read to that sixth paragraph. They're like flipping through things, usually not looking at all of the work. They're just kind of like quickly, like, you know one or two campaigns are they good or are they bad? And if they click on something and they don't know what the idea is within, a few seconds, they're just going to click away out of sort of like boredom or time efficiency. So I think that that's a really, really big one.
What is another one, Jeff?
Another
execution wise on copy or art direction.
Oh, there's a lot. I mean, there's having the same style over and over again or the same brand. With the way I do portfolio class, I'll let students choose between somewhere like 8 or 10 projects for each assignment. And, sometimes students will sign up and they'll do Spotify, and then 3 assignments later, looking at their work, and they did a project for Apple Music, and they're both good, but you can't have Spotify and Apple Music in your portfolio. It's not showing
amplitude of thinking.
Yeah. So I see a lot of that, like just kind of like brand or tonal things too, right? Like it's nice when you can see that a writer can write something that's funny and then write something that's serious, and show that they can more for what the brand needs. That's another nice thing to see, but sometimes students just kind of lock in. Art directors do it too. It's like some art directors fall in love with one font, and you see the same font like on 4 pieces out of 4 brands out of 8. They're using the same font over and over again, right? And some years fall in love with the font too. It's a funny thing, so little things like that, like I think when you're a student, it's like the ultimate time to experiment with things and try something new every time and try and do something different every time. So
do you think the students don't have the realization of how the precious thing of the gigantic sandbox they have in their hands to do work?
Yeah, I think that they sometimes get in the mindset of this is an assignment and I'm filling out a checklist. Like, do I have this? Do I have that? Do I have this? And I think that if you change the way you look at your portfolio and make it be about this is a chance for me to experiment and to show my personality and to just do a bunch of things that are different from everybody else, then all of a sudden you have something super, super cool. Like when Noel, I think they talked about this on when he came on, about burning the headlines out of wood and then climbing down into the waterfall and photographing their stuff down there. It's like, I always think, why not do this stuff when you're a student? Like, that's memorable. You know what I mean? Like, to do something, to take on a project and go over the top with your effort for it. I don't know. Do you remember that when Ryan Chason and Eric Cicero made the chicken wing ads?
Yes.
Do you remember that?
I remember that.
They took the wing sauce and they had to shape it to make it look like a font. Yeah, like and they were doing that for a week, and it was crazy to be like basically readjusting ketchup to be in the shape of like letters. But it was a super cool, creative thing to dig into, and I always wonder why more students don't do things like that. Like that, if I was a student, that would be one thing I would definitely want to go back and do. Is just like something ridiculous to show crazy effort towards something.
Yeah, I don't think they have the awareness that they have that power in their hands, and I think it's our duty too, Jeff. A lot of times we say that, and some of them get it, but
yeah, for sure. Remember, like there's been a million times where students have done crazy cool things. I remember Sarah Quinto making typography by hand by like stitching it, and some of the projects like the bus driver stunt where they went and like surprised bus drivers with things. There's been lots of times over the years where students have done really really cool. Even I remember one Gage Varga.
Yes.
so in the agency, there's a when this is not an ad project, but this was, I think, a really cool showing of effort. Um, there's the window in the agency that like uh, when you look out it, there's like there's like a huge drop, and there's below it there's like
The
a
atrium.
the atrium,
Atrium,
yeah,
yes.
yeah. And I said to Gage, I said, I bet you could never flick a coin and get it to sit on the window ledge outside of this window here. And he's like, you'll see tomorrow morning. And I came in the next day, and he had written all of these little notes on pennies and flipped them up. It must have spent hours doing the basically trick shot before the trick shot thing was cool. And those pennies are still there outside the window. So I love that. Like I love when students, they go nuts on any one thing. Like I really kind of geek out about that kind of thing.
Well, what are another project that I wanted to tell you is you have this side project, passion project thing that I think it's influenced the students a lot of doing something that they discovered this kind of what we're talking in sandbox, creativity
Yeah.
sandbox of going push forward. How was that project comes together, Jeff? How was the idea?
Yeah, that's I love that project. And it was harder to do this year because of the restrictions and stuff like that. But that I think that project kind of came from the idea of trying to make it so that students weren't just checking boxes with their portfolio, but like what if we took a brand away and we just made it about having a human interaction between somebody where there's not we're not there there's no intention to it. We're not trying to sell anything. We're not trying to change your mind or anything. We're just trying to make your day. And so there have been so many ideas that the students did that I thought was cool, like students going out with giant balloons and like flagging people down for like parking spaces because parking in the college is typically very difficult to do. Or like uh, there's one project where a team the team their crossing guard when they were a kid, they wanted to thank that crossing guard because crossing guards are like the greatest thing on earth, right?
Hmm.
And so they went out and did like this really cool chalk art where it was like they wrote these headlines. It's like so stands here a golden god, and then there was like the little spot where the crossing guard had to stand in, like where it was like he was part of the art direction, and I thought that was super cool, especially because they filmed the crossing guard the next day, and he was so modest about it, and like, oh, I don't know, I just showed up and it was here honestly, like as if people thought that he did it for himself. So yeah, I think that's a really fun project for the students to do. It's a chance to do something where actually like you get to see the reaction too.
I also remember the one that went all the way to the where the scene is of the movies shot in Hamilton. Wow, yeah,
Yes,
that one
yeah,
was
yeah.
super cool.
Those were so funny, yeah, because for that one they found the spot in Hamilton where they shot movie scenes, and then they recreated them by just lip syncing the dialogue. But instead of like, they made sure that the person speaking the lines never like fit who actually did it in the movie. Like they were always kind of hilariously bad. Yeah, that was really fun too, for sure.
So we're getting now to the final part, Jeff. What is the future idea saying for our students in the industry based on the current pandemic and social structure and everything that is happening right now? What do you think they should focus and what do you think the industry should go?
Well, I remember you talking about Joe Duda before. I remember
Hmm.
when when COVID-19 was like coming, like it was like um, it was happening in China, and I think at that time it didn't really feel like it was gonna actually arrive because we'd been through Ebola and H1N1 and stuff like that, where they came and people were scared, but it didn't really change life. And so, but I remember saying like, oh, this actually, there's a lot of bad things that are going to happen as a result of coronavirus, obviously. But from our students' perspective, there's a lot of gains that they could get out of this. Like for one thing, we're Hamilton, the ad market is in Toronto, and that's all we've always been on the outside. And I think one really huge shift that we're going to see is the geography of the industry, where people working from home, they've proven that you can work from home and do cool work. Like every Super Bowl ad that was made was a result of everybody working from different spots, and there was some really cool stuff. And the work is good. The students, the work that they did for us this year, I think is a lot of good stuff.
Mm-hmm.
People can do good work from home, and I think agencies are going to realize that, and they're going to stop saying everybody has to come to work every day. I think it'll be, I think agencies will still have space and you can still go in and work there. And I think people will do that. But I think that it's much more possible to live in a market outside of Toronto and work in an industry like advertising. And I think and I actually also think that we'll see, because if you think about it, for a big agency to pay the rent prices, for space in Toronto versus like maybe other markets. Like if people aren't coming to work every day, does it matter if your agency is on the most central part of Toronto? I don't know. So I think that over the next long time, like 5-10 years at least, we're going to see agencies popping up in Hamilton that are really, really great. We're going to see more people working from home. We're going to see less students moving to Toronto after they get jobs, but instead living in Hamilton and taking the train in for the 1 or 2 days a week that they actually go to the agency. Like I think that the geography is going to really shift as a result of all of this stuff. So, and I think for our students, that's awesome. Like I think that that'll be a huge, huge benefit.
How about the teaching, Jeff?
How we teach.
How do you think all those changes will also influence
our
program?
How you learn?
How we
I think it will, but I like a lot of the benefits of online stuff. Like I think that there's a lot of stuff you can teach online that are better. I love doing critique sessions online. I felt like it was always hard to get everybody so they could see the screen, and it gave everybody a feeling like they had a voice. Plus, you can record a critique session when it's online. You can I record a lot of times when I'm meeting with teams. I'll hit record on the meeting, and they'll say to me after, "Hey, could you send us the recording? We wanted to go back and watch the tape on some of the things we talked about."
I see.
So there's a lot of benefits, even presentations. When students present stuff online now, I can film that. Like I can record it, and sometimes the students say, "Can you send me the footage because you said I did something and I want to see it. Like I want to see what that looks like." Where I think it can be really awesome is when you have a mix of some of the online advantages, which we didn't do before, and then some of the physical things where there are times where physical is way better for certain scenarios. And I think if you can find a really cool split between those, then it can make for way better, more convenient, happier sort of learning. I think that one of the things with online is when you do it all the time, it gets depressing and you feel isolated and lonely. But I don't think that the percentage of face-to-face needs to be 80% to make that go away. I think it's just having some face-to-face with other people and then a mix of that and online, I think can be really cool. But I mean, maybe that's different for different personality types and different learning styles and stuff.
But probably for some programs too. I think it will take a few years until we find the perfect percentage of a hybrid learning. But I really believe that a hybrid method is here to stay.
I agree. I mean, if you think about how when we first started teaching online, some of the things that we did versus I think some of the things we do now that I think are so much better. I think we learned how to do that. And I think that when we switch to doing the hybrid thing, I think we're going to do that as well as we can at first, but that we'll learn after doing it once or twice that there's an even better way to do that. I think you dive into anything and do the best you can, and then the next time through it's usually a lot better, right? So so I think that the hybrid one will even be a bit of a learning process, but I think we'll get good at that too. I think that for every school everywhere, that the hybrid thing is going to be a new reality forevermore. Like I don't know, but I don't think we're ever going to go back to like everybody showing up in a room for however many hours a week and sitting in a classroom and never having online stuff. I think that those days are behind us now.
Jeff, what do you think? Let me just search for a thing here. What do you think is a great advice to give to students who's thinking about going into a career for advertising or coming to our college to finish?
Well, one is send us an email and let us know. Let's have a conversation. I think that that's like a huge thing. So our emails are on the webpage, and like I think if you're interested in doing something, then you can read about it all you like. But the time to know if it's really right for you is when you actually talk to somebody. So I think that would be one thing. And I'm super interested with like high school students or students from other programs, if they want to do some kind of little project, or if they want a walk through some of the work that we've done. I think that having a conversation and really seeing if it's for you is a really, really great idea. I don't know if you can ever really learn just by going through a program catalog what the right thing is for you. And then I think it's just I mean, you and I, we always talk about the creative stuff. So I think it's like going into the Adobe software and goofing around, or making a poster, or doing one of those like passion projects or something like that, like playing around with your creativity a little bit, warming that up a little bit before you come.
Jeff, thank you so much. I think it was a great conversation here for the insight for the students, and I think I know you a little bit better. And I'm really looking forward for September to come back. So this is the season 1 finale of Rapscast.
Well, wait,
Mohawkad. Yes,
Raph,
yeah.
I think we need to do a season 2 finale where we switch. And I interview you and ask you a lot of the same questions.
Done.
That's
it's on the books.
All right.
Let's do that. Okay. Let's do that for season finale of season 2. Okay. Okay. So you'll be the guy running the show. I'm very glad to have it.
Hard-hitting questions.
By the way, Jeff, you can, if you want to make an episode or something, it's more than welcome you to do.
Oh yeah, no. I think you're doing a great job. I love listening to them. But it occurs to me that sometimes you gotta turn the microphone on the host and hear what their thoughts are. So
sure, yeah, definitely. Yeah. Let's make it happen.
Okay, sounds good.
Jeff, thank you so much for your time.
All right.
Thank you. So this is the end of Rapscast Tales from Mohawkad, episode 17. This is the end of season 1. And I want to thank everybody, all the guests who participated on this project with me this year. And especially Abiner Sestari that recorded our amazing intro music for the show. And you should check his work. And don't forget to subscribe us. We're going to be back in September. So Spotify, Apple Music, YouTube, and SoundCloud, among other places. Thank you so much, guys, for this year. And we're coming back in September. Thank you. See you, Jeff.
See ya. Bye.
Bye-bye.